Welcome, everybody. Good evening and good morning for people in Australia. Welcome to another episode of Chat with a Doctor and Small Businesses, where we promote small businesses, Assyrian, Soraya, Syriac, anybody within our culture. And we talk to doctors from our different in our culture that from the different specialties to try to educate people. So before we start, we'll give people a couple minutes to start tagging people. Remember, if you tag 10 people on the main comments during the live feed, you'll be eligible to win the prizes we have featured from our small business partners that we have. And whoever is watching us on A&B TV, thank you for watching us. And hopefully you can watch us during the live feed next time and be part of the winning the free prizes. So if we can see here, these are our featured businesses today. We have your elegant occasions and Soha sweet treats. Well, welcome back, everybody. So again, today we have our episode 9, and today we are featuring these awesome businesses that we had from before, your elegant occasions. They're offering us today a free gift basket for Father's Day. So they will, let me show you the picture. It's custom made, but it has to be Chicago. It's Chicago only because they don't ship it. And so it looks something like this. So you'll be able to custom make from all these different Father's Day things, right? And then our other main one is our Suha's sweet treats. I actually tested out this place and they are beyond amazing. My nurses fell in love with their chocolate cake, so I would totally recommend a chocolate cake if you win the free gift. But again, obviously it's just Chicago only because they're only local delivery. They can't ship the cakes or anything outside of the state or the town, right? So our agenda today is a little bit shorter because I had a very busy clinic today. So our Mythbusters are going to be mixed with our amazing doctor that we're talking to today, and our elegant occasions friends, they had a special outdoors, obviously, event that they need to take care of that was last minute. So hopefully we can get them on board next time maybe and talk to them about, they wanted to talk to us about their Father Day situation. So obviously if you have anything that you want to talk to or buy gifts for Father's Day, you can talk to them. Maybe they might enjoy flowers as well. So our guest today is this lovely doctor, and she is from the National University of Health Sciences. She's the Dean of Academics and Faculty for the College of Professional Studies, right? That's like a lot of awesome stuff. So let's bring on this lovely doctor. Let's see, let's get rid of that. Hello, doctor, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming and being with us on this lovely program. I know you're super, super busy with your students and everything going on in Chicago. How are you today?
Good, and yourself? I'm sorry you had a busy day too today. Seems like it's just the trend, huh?
Yes, it all comes all together. I think it's Wednesday and everybody wanted to get sick today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody, if you have any questions, you can always put them in the comments. Obviously, if it's an emergency, call your doctor. But if you have any questions, and for Dr. Rogers, just let us know here, and we'll answer those questions. So, and obviously if you tag 10 people, you are eligible to win, but they has to be in this live feed, because if it's not on the live feed, it's hard for us to find, okay? So, Doc, do you want me to start with your slides, or do you want to talk a little bit first?
I guess we could start with the slides. Since we're talking about Alzheimer's disease, or we're going to discuss Alzheimer's disease and possible preventatives for that, I always like to give people a little bit of background information on Alzheimer's. And what you see here is an image of a normal brain. So the one right under the word where it says fatal disease, that's a normal brain. It's nice and big and looks filled out. And then the one on the right is one that's been affected by Alzheimer's disease. And a lot of people think, oh, there's a cure for it, you can fix it. I mean, once something is eaten away and it's no longer there, you can't go in and fix it. You can suppress symptoms, you can make things, slow things down as they progress. But unfortunately, at that point in time, the smaller brain, that's at the full stage where the person has actually passed away. But so there's a theory, how many people get this? It's not common and so forth. Actually, 1 in 10 people, about 10% of the people over the age of 65 are hit with early stages of Alzheimer's disease. Now, that can be anything from memory loss, the early onset, or there's actually even one that you can get it as early as your 30s. And that's a mutation. So when I talk about Alzheimer's disease to people, I always say, okay, no one's immune to it. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the richest of the rich. You could be the Pope. You can be the president. Whoever you are, unfortunately, it comes and hits everybody. It does not mean that it's hereditary. So one of the myths out there, oh, if my parents have it, that means I'm going to get it. Well, did your grandparents have it? Did your great-grandparents have it? Or was it just a one-deal situation? So there's different types of Alzheimer's, I guess, regressions or different ways of getting Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
So what else do I have? And then the other thing is, people say, oh, you can't die from it. You're just going to lose your memory, and then you just die because you're old. And unfortunately, not the case. What happens is, you start with short-term memory loss, long-term memory loss, and then it goes on to different stages where you get angry and you forget bigger things. You forget how to breathe. You forget how certain parts of your body no longer function the way they do. And unfortunately, it does result in death. And that's why it's something that we do want to look at and figure out a way to prevent some of the symptoms or suppress how long it takes for you to get Alzheimer's. So if let's say you have early onset and it takes about 15 years for you to pass away, what if we slow that down? So by the time, let's progress it or slow it down to the point where you're not going to get the next symptom till you're 90. And that's okay. Now you have short-term, long-term memory loss. And the next symptom won't be till you're like 100 and something. At that point, you may have passed away from other natural causes or other things. But if we slow it down, that is a way of taking care of it. There's no cure, is what I'm getting at. There are ways to suppress some of the symptoms, and these are some of the traditional medications out there right now that people utilize, but that's not the end all. And with the Syrian cultures, we have a lot of wives' tales where people, I don't have any more slides, sorry. We have a lot of recipes that, our grandparents and great-grandparents come up with, and there is some evidence that does lead to it being a possible preventative. So my mom would talk about, my great-grandmother would make jams out of apricot pit seeds. So mishmisha, the seed or the pit, and then you take the seed out of it, and they used to make a marmalade out of it. I found a book. It's a Spanish book. It was published in Mexico. I couldn't read it, so I had a friend of mine translate it. And we found out that, as a matter of fact, using apricot pits was a preventative for Alzheimer's. They didn't know it was Alzheimer's at that time.
Yeah.
But when people started losing their memory, they would eat this. So we decided to research it in our own lab, and we utilized brain cells. Rat brain cells. You can't use human species to do the research on. That's a whole different category. And these are initial stage research projects. But we found that, as a matter of fact, that it was a preventative. It slowed down the progression of Alzheimer's disease, which was great. But there's so many other things, you don't think of it, but cinnamon, it's an anti-inflammatory generally. And if people use it for diabetes as a treatment, now it's not, you're not going to go and say, go to the doctor. And you would know, you're not going to prescribe, take some cinnamon and see what happens, but it's something that you want to incorporate into your diet. So it's nice to see that there are other ways to go about finding cures. Hippocrates stated that let food be thy medicine. And there's, physicians out there that are Western med, or, like yours, you practice the entire body. Let's not just treat the one condition. Let's treat the entire thing. Why did you get sick, and so forth. And this is another way of incorporating diet into your daily regimen. And if you're prone to Alzheimer's disease, what could you do to cure it? Or not cure it. I'll take that, to prevent it. Yeah.
So I guess it's your sister's asking where her dinner is, but I guess we can skip that question. But tell us, so can you tell us, or hold on, there's a question. We'll save mine for a little bit later. What types of behavioral changes are common for people who are developing dementia or Alzheimer's disease? What should the family look out? Well, I guess that's similar to what I was thinking. So how can I differentiate between, obviously dementia and Alzheimer's is the same, well, it's a stage of it, but how can I know what a normal forgetting is, or how would you compare normal forgetting and maybe my mom or dad is going into a dementia?
Well, normal, everybody forgets something at some point in time. So you have to remember the situation that you're in. So if it's a high stress situation, or like, for example, we've worked long days today, and I got to make dinner, and I'm doing laundry at the same time that I make dinner. And then I got the two knuckleheads upstairs that are always causing problems. And I forgot to turn off the stove. It doesn't mean that it's Alzheimer's. It's just how much stress there is in your body at that moment in time. How are you reacting to the stress? Sometimes you forget something. Whereas Alzheimer's is, you tend to forget a little more often, and you forget some of the things, like if they were mentioned 6 or 7 times. So, your brothers and your sisters came over and they said, well, we're going to the park tomorrow. Okay, Mom, we'll see you later. We're going to the park tomorrow. Kids, are you excited to go to the park tomorrow? And you've repeated it, but then your mom doesn't remember that. And that would be a way to identify it, that it might be a step to early stage Alzheimer's.
And right away, are we talking about, let's say, when I tell my dad we have a baptism in 3 months, and then we tell him 5 times, but he forgets all the time? That counts, or is that not
3 months? That's too long. People tend to forget. People forget. I teach all the time. Students forget what you told them last week, and they don't have Alzheimer's. But it's if you repeat it and it was the next day. We're talking short term. Short term memory is usually the first to go. So it starts in the hippocampus region, which is the part that holds the short term memory. So that's a good question. And then when you start getting into Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, that is such a tough thing to differentiate between the two. So you start looking for the long-term symptoms, and that's how you differentiate between the two. So the shakes versus some of the traditional paths of Alzheimer's disease. So memory loss, they get violent.
Yeah.
They get, they're not their normal selves. And I know a lot of family members have a hard time understanding that that's part of the disease too. So
how about, what would you say to people that, let's say how would they recommend approaching this? So let's say, I think that's so weird. Every time I think of asking you something, somebody asks it.
Oh.
The question here, it says, my father's current. So apparently your father is dealing with Alzheimer's. Do you recommend anything? So like, I was going to ask you, when do you think we should approach something, and when or how? Let's say if I think my dad, like, let's say in this situation, is dealing with it, when is it okay to say, let's jump in and do something? When do we need to think assisted living? When do we need to say, oh, it's okay, we're still at home, we can still deal with it, we deal with this at home? What would you recommend, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I would go with, if you're starting to see more and more memory loss, short-term memory loss, I right away start doing some brain exercises. And what I mean by that is not, go work out your brain, but mentally challenging yourself. So Kong Kong, I know everybody plays Kong Kong, the card game, and that's a game of strategy. That's a really good game to exercise your mind. The other thing is Sudoku, something that challenges you with regards to, you have to really think about the answers a few steps ahead, and that's a great way to exercise your mind. You do want to start also physically exercising. That helps slow down the progression of Alzheimer's disease. And then also your diet. Your diet really is key. As far as how far along do you put them in the home is, in assisted living, that's a personal decision. That's not up to anybody else but the people dealing with it, with the family member. My aunt took care of my uncle, God rest his soul, but it was difficult. I mean, she took care of him all the way through to the very end. And it was tough. He couldn't move. After a certain point, after that violent stage, like not violent, but they were just mean and nasty. And it's kind of like those, grumpy old men or whatever, but take it to an extreme level. At that point in time, that's usually when people decide to put him in assisted living, but she took care of him. And then unfortunately it gets to that infantile stage. So now you're going backwards. So you have to make sure you bathe them. You have to make sure you take care of them in the washroom. It's a lot. It depends on the family member taking care of them. So I can't answer that. That's a personal, it's a tough thing to say. So usually, and it is such a very sad disease, but when I talked about, is it hereditary or not, you have to look generations back. If your grandparents had it and your great grandparents had it, then yes, chances are you might have it. There's also the familial mutations, but that is more ethnic based. So it's the Irish, the Dutch, the Flemish, the Italian, and then the Arctic. So these are the top 5 that end up getting Alzheimer's disease just as a part of a genetic mutation. It's who they are, unfortunately.
So let's see what else. She brought some more. So I guess it's a more of a violent situation in their case. And she said they're trying to do what you're saying. So
showering is hard. Make sure you have seats in the bathroom. If you can have somebody with you there. At one point, it's going to have to be a bird bath. It makes it easier, but you want to get into all the areas and wash them up properly. But if it gets to be too much, there are services that are provided where you can have people come to your home and help take care of them. Like, they're not nurses per se, but they are I don't know what they're exactly called. I can find out and let you know, but I know, or you might know even. But I know there's like,
we do have nurses that go in, and it's more like a home health facility, and there's a whole thing, like a whole organization behind them, like a whole department that goes in and help these people.
And there's one that's provided by the government. So it's either Medicare or Medicaid offers it too. And they're not nurses, but they're almost nurses. They could be like CNAs.
Yeah, maybe I can contact her as well later on. But usually what I tell people is they should also look at a depression point of view, especially with our people. A lot of times when they get into that depression, that anger shows up.
Yeah.
It's how we see it in kids, that when kids get angry, there could be an underlying depression. That's how they're showing it. And then so with older folks, that's something we notice as well. So we need to have an open mind. Is it fully the dementia Alzheimer's kicking in, or is there some kind of depression going on, that they're frustrated with the situation, that maybe they're what's the word I'm looking for? They're not insulted. They're ashamed that they keep forgetting, and that's causing this frustration. Why do you keep reminding me? No, I can. Right. So it's having that conversation and thinking maybe there is some depression and we need to deal with it. And obviously for the families, there has to be some respite care. We do have that also in different communities. So for the families. So that's something I recommend always. If the family that takes care of him and they're always frustrated now with the care, obviously there are parents, there are mom and dad, uncles, aunts, grandparents. We will take care of them, but we need to remember to take care of ourselves. So I always recommend respite care. So you need to take a break. Crying is awesome, and we cry with them. But sometimes I need to smile, laugh, and take advantage of these respite care people. Yeah. It's like a daycare. It's like a babysitter. I've been to some of these places. It's just you keep them there for maybe like morning to the evening, just for a day. You can go do your shopping. You can go get a massage or something just to rest, and then come back and pick them up.
Yeah, and that's one of the key things. Everybody takes care of, Alzheimer's doesn't just affect the patient themselves. It affects the entire family. And your well-being is just as important as the person you're taking care of. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress. It's physical stress. It's emotional stress. You're angry. You're upset. You're like, why am I stuck doing that? And it's normal. There's no shame in that. You should feel all these emotions because it's very hard on the people taking care of them too. So, reach out. And like you said, you can drop them off in those rest areas, but you can always have somebody else come in and pitch in, take turns, take shifts, but don't forget yourself, because without you being healthy, then they can't, that's who they rely on. They rely on you taking care of them. So.
Yeah. And I feel like let's see, another question. And no shame, obviously. Yeah. So there's no shame in doing any of this. And obviously reaching out to the community. I feel a lot of our churches where there's a bigger population, I feel they do a good job. I've seen priests go to places that we have a lot of the older folk, and that they are having Alzheimer's. So it's good to give them that spiritual health as well. So it's good to remind them. Because obviously one other thing I always tell people is you need to make sure they have pictures around, that they can remember loved ones. And so they are familiarized with the scenario or where they are. So even, let's say, church, maybe to a lot of us doesn't really mean much, but to them it was a big deal when they were growing up. So that's helpful. So that's something maybe you can look into what the local churches are offering and providing. That can be also, I always think it's beneficial as well.
Yeah, and then having pictures even from when they were young is very beneficial too, because at one point after short-term memory loss, that long-term memory loss kicks in, and then they refer to you as, oh, you're not my son, you're my brother. And no, that's not your brother. But and don't, I know it sounds bad, but don't discourage them from talking about that. I mean, if it makes them happy to talk about their past, just pretend to be the brother. At some point in time, it's just, these are the last memories that you'll have of them and they'll have of you. So it's tough. It's very, very tough, but it is something that is one of the biggest issues right now in with death rates. I think Alzheimer's is still number 5. It's the top 5 leading causes of death nation or worldwide. So, you know, it's going to be there, and it costs a lot of money, unfortunately, to take care of. And medication, there is no cure. There'll never be a cure, unfortunately. And every time I see these commercials for like, oh, we found a, not a commercial, but it's like the news is saying, oh yeah, they found a cure for Alzheimer's disease. And my mom tells me about it. I'm like, yeah, which strand? Is it the tau or is the beta amyloid? And it's like, you can't cure all of them. There's so many different strains and different lengths of proteins, and you get into the science of it all. It's just, there's no way they could have a cure for it, unfortunately.
Yeah. So our biggest hope is just prevention, like the doctor mentioned. And hopefully we'll end up bringing, my thought was to bring in some other specialists that they can talk about other diseases that can lead to dementia. For example, let's say blood pressure. A lot of times I see people with blood pressure and they're like, oh no, I'm fine. I don't have any pain. And which is true. They don't have any pain, but that blood pressure slowly, I don't want to say eats at your brain, but it pounds on your brain to a point that you start getting something called microvascular dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that your little arteries are kind of dying off. And so that wherever they were feeding in your brain, they kind of die off. And you end up with dementia maybe 40 years later. So hopefully we can approach this whole prevention thing more and educate people more. And hopefully we can help more people that way.
And there was even studies done that liver disease leads to Alzheimer's disease too. And it's because that same protein is being excreted from the liver, and then it gets to the blood system up into your brain. And that's, that was the other picture I was going to put up. The milk thistle is one that is now used as a preventative for Alzheimer's disease, but they don't market it. Again, it's not a prescription that you can write. It's just a preventative. It's something that may or may not work. But there has been scientific research showing that that can be a preventative. The only question is when you do research like this in the labs, even myself, we don't know at what stage do you take this. Do you take this when you're pregnant and you're allowing your child to be it's preventing Alzheimer's disease? Do you take it when you're in your teens? Do you take it now in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s? Do you take it right before you hit 60? And I don't know the answer to that. I haven't seen any articles on that. And I have, I think, 20 some papers I'm trying to push out right now. So we'll see what happens with that.
Awesome. Doc, thank you very much. Let's show these people some things they can get for Father's Day from Renio as well. And then we'll show the gifts one more time. And then if anybody has any more questions, we can approach them. And then we can do final words. So let me bring up the slides. So everybody, we do have some shirts that you might be interested in for Father's Day. If you are, these are available in Canada and the United States. We can ship them within 2-3 days. Obviously, these guys are not fathers, but you get the idea. We have sizes from small to large to some extra large. You can just send us a message on our Facebook page or email us at info@renio.org, and we can get in contact with you. And let me show you the gifts one more time as well. So if you tag, there are 2 people that tagged 10 or more at this point, so they are eligible. So if you want to tag, you still have a chance, obviously, right? So there's a Father's Day package, and there's a $25 gift card, right? So you can get chocolate or sweets or something. And so you have these, or you can ask us and we can get you these shirts if you're interested in. And we do have polos as well. Let's see, Doc, do you have any final words that you want to tell everybody before we announce the winners?
Just stay safe and make sure you watch what you eat, I guess.
Well, ma'am, amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Let's see. Let's give them a couple more minutes to see if anybody. And let me just go through the comments to make sure there's no missed questions. Again, this will be on AMB TV, and everybody on AMB TV watching this, remember next time, just watch us on our live feed on renio.org, the YouTube page, and obviously the Facebook page. We won't have an episode next week because I have some things to do at the clinic, but we will be back the Wednesday after. Let me make sure the date so I can tell everybody the date. So today's June 3rd, I think, right? So the 10th, we won't have an episode, and then we'll restart everything again on the 17th. So it'll be every Wednesday. Next week will be a break because I have some clinic issues or clinic work, obviously, and then we'll start again on the 17th. So let's see, we have some new comments. Let's see if there are comments or tags. Somebody said, "Oh my God, I'm late."
Yeah, I saw that.
You can still ask a question if you want to, or if anybody wants a tag, final call for any tags. There is 2 people. If nobody else tags, then it will be going to those 2 people. Anybody else? Okay. So the 2 people that won were Sham, Zaya, and Rumson. And so we will contact these people. I think they're both from Chicago, so this would work. And whoever tagged first will get to pick the prize first. We'll go for that's how we do it. Okay. So thank you again, Doc. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
And everything that you do. Good luck with the students. Hopefully things calm down in Chicago and everything will go almost back to normal with school and everybody can graduate peacefully.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
And everybody, thank you for being with us. Bye-bye.